You're listening to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast, home of the 2-hour deep dive interview with gold, platinum, and multi-platinum bands, including Stained, Blue Rodeo, The Arkells, Finger 11, Big Wreck, Moist, Bedouin Soundclash, I Mother Earth, illScarlett, Neverending White Lights, Thornley, and many more. Please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast, as well as share, comment, and like. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. He's achieved a level of mastery as the drummer for the gold-selling band illScarlett. So welcome to the podcast. Making his triumphant return, Swav, Pior. Swav, how are you? And how good did it feel last summer to play the sold-out illScarlett reunion show, the 15th anniversary of your debut album? How good did that feel to feel that love from all the fans after a lengthy hiatus?
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, that's the most simple way to explain it. Didn't know what to expect, but everyone's our fans are big fans of that album. So knowing that was the 15th anniversary and we're gonna play all the songs, we knew that it was a good way to gather everybody. And yeah, went off amazing. We had a great night. Definitely went in there with a little bit of nerves because it was the first time playing a proper show in, 5 years, maybe longer or something. So we went in there a little bit nervous, but after the first 2 or 3 songs, kind of settled the anxiety and just ripped it.
So it was you guys had a lengthy hiatus, but you mentioned it had been about 5 years. So had you played like a one-off show here or there?
Yeah. I mean, we honestly, it's even hard to keep track. I was talking with the guys the other day and we were talking about last time we wrote a song or this, so it was someone threw out 8 years and I'm like, 8 years? Was it been 8 years? And when's the last show? And kind of like everything is matched into the matrix. I have no idea exactly how long we haven't played, but it was definitely at least 5 years, and honestly probably longer. Who knows?
And how much did you guys have to practice to be ready for this reunion show?
Yeah, we were pretty diligent for 2.5 months before. It was kind of like let's figure out a schedule because everybody's spread across Ontario. One guy's in Montreal, and all of us are kind of all over Southern Ontario. So it's like every 2 weeks we made it that we'll do a whole weekend, and that's what we kept going leading up to the show with like a little warm-up show in Ottawa.
And when you guys got together and jammed for the first time after years, was it like just a little rusty, or it
was very rusty? Yeah.
Okay. So there's a big difference between that first practice and then the show itself.
Yeah. And even going into the show, where like, as the practices got better, it's still in the back of my head, it's still not a show, because then you have that like natural, what's the word for it? Like all the adrenaline that hits you as soon as you get on stage and you have all the people like, expecting a show and stuff. So like automatically everything gets heightened. And I find myself behind the drums, like I'll play almost too hard for the first little bit, or gas myself out. And that's exactly what I did. And same with Alex, like after the second song, I turned around, it was like panting, trying to kind of like do some quick breath work, drink a beer or something, just chill. We got to chill because the show just started. But yeah, ideally, I would have liked to have like a week worth of shows leading into that show, but just didn't work out that way. So I don't know. Seems like it was pretty positive for everybody that came out.
So during those practices where there's the nerves, you're feeling the adrenaline kick in. You mentioned you can, get out of breath a little bit. Do you also find yourself speeding up? Like you're so excited and so into it that maybe the tempo is speeding up a bit?
Well, we made sure that the first two songs I'll play to a click. And then just because the nature of the songs, if it's like a reggae more more of a reggae tune, we don't really need it, or maybe I'll have a starting point just at the beginning, because like I said, well, like you just said, the nerves will push you a little bit. But specifically the first two songs were dead on click, so it would keep us keep us reined in,
locked in. So
yeah.
the reunion show, we know the end result. We know that it ended up selling out a few weeks in advance. We know it was a great show. But when you first booked it, after all that time off, was there any fear that just like nobody would show up?
No, not well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have booked the Phoenix. Like, we knew people.
It's a big venue.
Yeah, we knew people would show up, and had confidence that it would be a full night. But the fact that it sold out in advance was, a pleasant surprise for sure.
That's pretty sweet to know that the fan base still cares. There's the diehard illScarlett fans that are just anything they can get, whether it's a new show or maybe someday some new music, they're there and they're ready.
Oh yeah, no, it was, like I said, a very humbling experience, and grateful for all our fans for sure.
And you guys pulled out all the stops, so it wasn't just the regular band members playing. You had a few special guests come out as well. I know you had Anthony Carone, that has a history with illScarlett,
right.
So they just had the Juno Awards. So I guess they're tonight, but they gave away a bunch of awards a few nights ago. The Arkells, to show the success that Anthony and the Arkells have had, they just won a record-setting 6th Group of the Year award. So if you just win 6 Junos, you're one of the most award-winning groups ever in Canada with 6 wins. They have 6 wins just in the Group of the Year category. So no band in Canadian history, not Blue Rodeo, not Tragically Hip, not Nickelback, has more Group of the Year wins. So can you talk about bringing out bringing out special guests for that show and what that meant to you to have guys like Anthony Carone come out?
Yeah, I mean, anytime Tony joins us on stage, it like brings it to a whole other level. He actually, having him on that show kind of also chilled us out, just because he's now, but by this point, he's like so well versed in everything. That was just another gig, where for us who trying to dust off the cobwebs and stuff, it was a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, he came up, crushed it, had so much fun, and just as the show, he's such a entertaining player. Just there's no way to keep him caged or locked down. Just he does what he does, and it's always like 150%. So yeah, it was great to have him.
And was there an opener at the show, or was it just you guys?
Yeah, there was Anti-Queens and you have to kind of
it's all good. I'm putting you on the spot here. So there's Anti-Queens that
I know the other band, hold on, Zebra and the Bandit. Yeah, local kids that are
That's
like
a cool name.
Yeah, really good hustlers, and good band too. So yeah, we threw them on.
So you guys played, so you're celebrating the 15th anniversary of your gold selling album, and you played all the songs from that album. Did you play them all in a row like the album, or you just played all the songs within that show?
Yeah, we kind of mixed and matched. So at least it wasn't expected, because we did a show pre-pandemic. Actually, that's probably the last show we did pre-pandemic at the Horseshoe. And we also kind of celebrated that album, and we did front to back. So this time was like, let's mix it up, and at least you don't know what you're getting.
And you played some of the band's other hits from the other albums?
Yeah, of course, yeah. We played the EP that came out before All Day With It, and then a couple other things I think threw in a cover too. That was a good night.
That's awesome. And that night was so successful. It was supposed to be a one-off, but that led to you guys booking 4 or 5 more shows. Can you talk about the rest of the run of shows that you did?
Yeah, it's as soon as people saw that the show was posted, and especially after they saw promoters saw that it sold out, then just got a few more emails. Asked the guys after we played, we were on a high for sure. So you guys want to do a few more? Everybody agreed that would be a good idea, and Yeah, that's what we did. So booked, I think 4 or 5 of them. They also did really well. I think almost all of them, other than 4 or 5 of them sold out. So clearly people are still interested in the band. So it's nice.
And what are the cities that you went to? I think I remember seeing Mavericks in Ottawa. So Ottawa is where I'm now.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did Ottawa. It was all Ontario dates. Ottawa, Kitchener, Hamilton. Hamilton was a riot. It was like a Halloween show. Um, Kitchener. What else was there?
Around the GTA somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all
That's
kind
all good. Okay.
of,
Yeah, I remember I was devastated when I saw the Ottawa date. I think I was out of the country on that day, and it was, I was pretty sad because it would be, I had seen before I knew you, I had seen illScarlett in concert several times, so I was excited as a fan to go see the band after all these years. But then, knowing that you and Jake and some of the other guys in the band, it would have been amazing to be there for the hometown welcome for you. So
I love Ottawa. Every time we play there, it's just the vibe of the city is really nice, and then the shows are always great. So we'll probably be back there sometime in the spring. I saw. Are you going to the Blues Fest?
yes, sir. Yeah, I'll be there
Yeah.
every day.
I'm interested in who's going to be playing drums for the Foos.
So they were saying, I think Josh Freese, I think they were saying
Oh,
is the top. If everyone had to bet who would be the drummer, people think it's Josh Freese
right.
because of
But
his
no official. Like
history.
I've read that all over the internet, but there's no like official statement for
Yeah.
the band yet, right?
But didn't they play? I thought they had already played like their first show back, not the celebration of Taylor Hawkins' life, but I thought they had just either they had just headlined a festival or they had announced that they're going to. So I thought they had done at least one show with a different drummer, but maybe that show hasn't happened yet and it's
No,
still a
I don't
secret.
think so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think they announced that they're headlining a festival coming up. So maybe people still don't know who that drummer is,
Yeah.
but it's hard to replace Taylor Hawkins,
I
man. How do you
know.
do
I
that?
read I read somewhere that someone that knows someone kind of that they were going to play with a drummer behind a curtain, and I was like, that sounds like extremely ridiculous for a rock show, especially for the Foo Fighters. Like, how would anybody hide a drummer? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have a bias opinion on that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, life goes on.
Yeah, of
Obviously they will honor Taylor. I'm sure they'll dedicate songs
course.
to him. They'll talk about him. They'll probably have up on the screen, pictures of him in his honor. And I'm sure Taylor wouldn't want the band, one of the biggest, most beloved bands in the world. I'm sure he wouldn't want the band to just stop. So
Yeah.
it's tough though. It's a tough situation.
No, it's heart wrenching. Absolutely.
So with those sold out shows with illScarlett, you guys felt this new life, this new perspective. The creative juices are flowing. Back when we did our last interview a year ago, when we were talking about the final album that you guys did, I had asked the question, is it bittersweet knowing that this is the final illScarlett album? And you kind of corrected me. You said, well, it might not be the final illScarlett album, and you hinted maybe there's new music someday. Is there any updates on maybe some new music, maybe a single, maybe an EP, anything you can say? I know there hasn't been any announcements of
Yeah.
anything, and I'm speculating here as a fan.
No. Yeah, no, we did record a couple songs, a new original and a classic cover that turned out really good. We are working towards an EP. You know, I don't know how long that will actually take, but since we do have some stuff recorded, I want to kind of get it out there while it's, we're pumped about it. So yeah, I'm sure there's no exact date or anything, but hopefully by the summer, maybe before, we'll be putting some stuff out.
And as a fan, I'm just going to put this out there that with in the summer, it's all the festivals happening. And we mentioned Blues Fest coming up in Ottawa. illScarlett is such a perfect band for festival shows, that outdoor fun drinking. You're there with friends. Everyone's having a good time. You guys are like a perfect addition to any festival.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any possibility of getting added? You know, you would strengthen any lineup of festival that they add the band to.
I don't know. I think by this point, most of it's booked.
Yeah.
Like they usually book them like pretty well in advance. By January, it's like solidified. They do add them here and there. Well, we are gonna do a few shows ourselves that we booked towards the beginning of summer. As far as festivals, nothing. Nothing. We've been doing it all ourselves. So yeah, it's kind of like starting everything back up. So hopefully by next season, we're added to a few for sure.
So I have a fan question sent in for you here. So this is from Samir Bashara. Samir asks, if you had to give credit to one person besides yourself for the success you've achieved as a drummer, who would it be? So they're thinking maybe a parent, a friend, a bandmate, a manager. So obviously it's you, your talent, your hard work. Outside of you, who else could you give credit for the success you've had?
My parents, I would say. Yeah, I actually 100%. They were always very supportive of me pursuing my dreams and playing music, and they weren't forceful about go be a lawyer, go be like just like they were just do what you love, just put your heart in it. So that was the biggest driving force for me to be able to have that kind of support and freedom.
Yeah. And I can see on your social media, you post lots of pictures with the family, and your parents are around and supportive and helping out. So you can see that there's that connection there and that love and that support.
Yeah, no, very fortunate there.
So I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Walk Off the Earth. So I saw you post the other day that you're in this new music video from Walk Off the Earth. They have a hit single called My Stupid Heart. And this is a video. They're known for their amazing, live videos. It's very creative, playing different instruments, just a lot of fun. It's not just that the music is amazing, the song's amazing, the talent's amazing, the performance are amazing, but there's just so creative, it's everything Absolutely. Is worthy of being shared and going viral. Yeah. And this video is them playing live in, I believe, Costa Rica.
That's right.
It was just released and it has almost 3 million views already. And then you look over and there's one Swav Pior playing guitar and singing in the video. So can you tell us about the history with Walk Off the Earth, how you guys became friends, and then how you ended up in this video that was just released?
History. Yeah, well, Walk Off's been they're from Burlington, we're from Mississauga, so it's like through all the random little gigs, definitely we've crossed paths, but the relationship kind of strengthened years later. Actually, I think through my sister-in-law is the one that started doing a bunch of stuff with them, and then my wife, like they also have a whole bunch of videos of doing covers together. And yeah, from there, kind of just, I honestly, there wasn't one specific thing that did it. It was just kind of a series of moments of hanging out, becoming friends, becoming better friends. And actually, when we went to Costa Rica I took the family down there for the month. It was because of Walk Off the Earth. They have a place down there, and they're like, come hang out. Let's try to avoid a little bit of the winter. So we got an Airbnb, and that video also randomly happened. I got a text from Johnny saying, you want to play on a song like in 2 days? I'm like, sure. What do you want me to play? Guitar. I'm like, not my strongest instrument, but I could pound some chords. So yeah, went and did it. And it was super fun, beautiful. You saw the video, so it's like overlooking the whole ocean and stuff. So yeah, got lucky on that one. Fortunate to be part of it.
Yeah, it's hard to turn down an invite from Walk Off the Earth to be in a video in Costa Rica when they have like a home base there that you can hang out.
That's the thing. It's like, what do you want me to play? I'll play kazoo. I'll clap. I'll do whatever, because they do all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't sure what he wanted, but yeah, when he said guitar, I was like, I could pound some chords for sure.
Yeah, tomorrow I leave for a week for the Dominican, so I feel you on the fact that
Nice.
you got to get out of the Canadian colds at least
Yeah.
once in the winter. So I was in Cuba in November. I have to get out like multiple times to survive the Canadian winters.
No doubt. It's such a punishing, um, just a punishing like atmosphere. Well, once it starts snowing, and like it'd be one thing if it was nice snow and you could take the kids tobogganing or do something, but it's like you get that for a very small amount of time, and then it's like slushy, gray, just miserable, and I don't know, not for me.
So your shirt, you have a turnstile shirt. So that album that came out, it's the Pink album. I forget the name of the album,
Yeah.
but that album comes out, and it seemed to be every musician I know that's successful. It seemed to be their favorite album. Like it was just a great heavy album. It
So
was a
good.
lot of fun, and um, I know that Anthony Carone loved it. He was raving about it. I believe you had raved about it maybe in our last interview. I can't remember correctly, but I think I've heard you rave about it. Was it you that went out to see them in concert, or was that Anthony?
Yeah, I saw them the last two times they came, and yeah, it was awesome. Just that like raw energy. It's a very polished album to compared to their other stuff, but they've been able to kind of marry the almost pop sensibility to hardcore, which seems like almost like it would not work, but it works incredibly. I dove in a little bit to see like who produced it and stuff, and it was I forgot the name, but it was like a bass player that basically is the go-to guy for Dr. Dre. I wish I remembered his name.
Wow.
Yeah, but he's a big hip hop guy, but his foundation is in hardcore. So I guess he used to be in hardcore bands, and then somehow through however you get from hardcore to playing bass for Dre and producing with him, it's just clearly a huge talent. But yeah, when I was really interested in who made the album, who produced it, and it sounds so good, and then the way the music is like, I don't know, just a songwriting. I don't want to say better because like all the like true hardcore kids will be like, wow, it's not hardcore enough or this and that. But just for me, it was like nicely polished without losing the grit.
And is that shirt? Did you get that shirt at one of the shows?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that album, great album. It was one of the most critically acclaimed albums of the year when it came out. And it went on to get nominated for 3 Grammys. Like it was a big
Crazy.
deal. And just like you mentioned, it's pretty heavy, but it's very polished as well. And there are some pop hooks and pop sensibilities.
Oh yeah.
And there was a lot of controversy because they got nominated in, I think, in like a best metal performance or best metal album, like best hard rock. There was some things where people are like, okay, it deserves the 3 Grammy nominations, but you could tell that the industry didn't know where to classify it, which is kind of cool. That means that they're kind of pushing boundaries.
Yeah, but didn't Ozzy or something win the metal album too?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, no disrespect to Ozzy because he's clearly legend and deserves everything, but like there's definitely way more metal bands out now compared to what the latest record that he released. But I guess I don't know how they choose their winners. I'm sure there's lots of politics involved, so
yeah, it's also mostly like old white dudes that are
yeah.
doing the nominations, right? So it's
Ozzy,
there has to
metal. Yeah.
there has to be some bias or preference that's there, even though you're trying to not have that happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think it's a fair. I don't know, so I'm just speculating here. So I'll just shut up.
So let's talk about the Pior fam on TikTok. So you're known as a musician, as a drummer, illScarlett, but your whole family is kind of famous online and has a lot of cool stuff going on with TikTok. So can you talk a little bit about the Pior fam? So to give everyone kind of an overview, you can talk about what you do and what the brand is, but you guys have 2.2 million followers on TikTok, and the videos have hundreds of millions of views. Some individual videos, like just one clip, has over 30 million views to show how popular you guys are. So for those that have never seen the Pior fam on TikTok, our listeners, we want to send them there to check you out. What can you tell us about the Pior fam? What's going on there?
Same thing. It wasn't nothing that was planned. It kind of just how do I put it? My wife's been films everything all the time. So pre TikTok, pre anything, just for memory's sake. And our oldest daughter, Francesca, she just says the funniest stuff. Super smart little chick, but says funny stuff all the time. A lot of toddlers do, right? So it's just one of those kind of things. But we have it documented. And on a suggestion of one of her friends, she said, you should put it on TikTok. This was probably a year or two ago. And she's like, okay, well, I don't know what this is, but sure, I'll put it up. And she put one or two videos, and then one of them got like 10,000 views overnight, which was like, this is a lot of views for just putting up a video, but I guess it connected on the algorithm. Then she put up another one that was also pretty funny, and that one went to 100,000. And then a couple of videos later, the one like was apparently really, really, really funny, or however the algorithm makes things work. And then that one went over 1 million, and then we're just like, maybe there's
something's happening here.
There's something here. So, we decided to kind of ride that wave and start focusing on a little bit more content. I don't know. It's hard to explain how, like, what it is or how it happened, but it started literally as let's just put up one or two things up there, and we're with zero expectation. So.
And why do you think it's so popular? Why do you think people love these videos so much?
Well, they're funny, and they're like judging by the comments, it's just like people like to laugh and like the positivity. It's an I guess escape for some people, because there's definitely a lot of darkness in life. So not that I'm promoting just sitting on your phone and, just scrolling for hours, but everybody is guilty of doing it at some point or another. You grab a coffee, kind of scroll through some stuff. So rather than seeing some there's a lot of bad shit on there, so some people seek that, and some people seek the more lighthearted stuff. And we live on that end of the spectrum. So that's why I figured it works, just because it's lighthearted and there's humor attached to it. Everyone likes to laugh.
Yeah, man, your daughters are so cute and so funny and so smart that you can't look away. Like, once you watch one video, you just have to keep watching, because you don't know what they're going to say next. And it's really endearing. So I don't think everyone's kids are like that. If you film them all the time, you probably wouldn't get much good content, but it seems like you guys, just everything they say is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing is, like, with us, it's not, we're not walking around with phones in our faces all day long. Like, we put up a clip that's 30 seconds, and that might happen. We'll get that once in a while, and sometimes we'll just bank some stuff or whatever. But it's 30 seconds out of a 24-hour day, so it's not. We wouldn't feel right constantly doing that to them. Just phone in their face. It's you need that privacy, but you get a funny little moment, and you feel like it makes some people smile, so we put it up.
So if some of our listeners right now, they're hearing about your success on TikTok, and they're a dancer or a musician or a producer or someone that has this great content that they want to share, if they're thinking of starting TikTok, as someone that's already had a ton of success on there, do you have any advice for someone that would be starting a TikTok account today to maybe have more success than they would if they had no idea what they were doing?
consistency is key. So definitely, if you're going to be posting, if it's an everyday thing, that's not a bad thing. That's actually probably encouraged if you can do it every single day, but being consistent, always posting at the same time. Obviously you need to have good content. Like, just if it's not, if it's not good, then doubtfully it'll do much. But TikTok's also kind of going through a little bit of scrutiny right now, and I don't even know if it's going to be around much longer, especially in Canada. They're already like starting to shut it down. And anybody that works for the government, I think in public schools, they're not going to be able to have it anymore. So I don't see. If it keeps going down this route, there might not be much TikTok. There's other places that, whether it's your reels on Instagram, it's kind of same idea. And then actually YouTube also has, like, they've been pushing their shorts. So if you have content and you want to get it out there, it's probably not a bad idea to almost put it in all the media platforms, but be consistent. That's the biggest thing. So if you're going to do 5 videos a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, take a weekend off, make sure it's the same thing every week. So that's what seems to work. That's what gets the numbers up.
Yeah, I've been given the advice to not put all your stock into just one platform, because you can just have success on TikTok and TikTok goes under and you go under with it. So I saw you guys have done a good job where you share that on YouTube. You do the clips, the Facebook stories are there. You do the clips on Instagram, and you guys have also built a big following on the other platforms. So even if TikTok were to go under, your fans know where to find you because they're already following you on the other platforms, and they'll just migrate to somewhere else.
Yeah. We don't really post on Facebook too much. There's a bunch of, actually, that's the weird part, is like, because we hit a certain number, there's a whole bunch of fake accounts too that's the internet's a weird place. Like, it's steal your content, make it their own, just trying to make money off it or something. I'm not really sure, but it's weird place.
Yeah. So when I was doing my research for our first interview a year ago, when I saw how much success you guys were having on TikTok, and it looked like your wife was spearheading a lot of that. So I'm friends with her on Facebook. So I just reached out. I said, congrats on that success on TikTok. Any advice for me? I wasn't on TikTok because I thought it was just for like dance videos. So I reached out. I said, hey, I have a podcast. I have hundreds of hours worth of content from amazing guests that I could put into 1-minute clips, and it would be great on that platform. And I asked her for any advice, and here's what she gave me. She said, you want your videos to be 9 to 18 seconds. That's the sweet spot. Yeah. Because I guess if someone watches your entire video, it puts it up higher in the algorithm.
That's
so
right.
If something's only 9 seconds, it's like, even if someone doesn't like it, it's like the whole video goes past before you can switch. So that's genius. And then she said, you want your clips to be funny, emotional, or memorable. So that stuff stuck with me. You basically said the same thing a second ago. And here's what happened. So taking her advice, the next day I start a TikTok account, and right away, my videos on TikTok start getting thousands of views. And basically overnight, the podcast. So the main goal is I want to grow the podcast. TikTok, it's like, it's not about can I get big on TikTok? It's like, can I drive traffic to the podcast? And overnight, using your wife's advice, the podcast went up 10,000% in downloads. Wow. Because the clip is saying, if you like this minute, you can get the full 2 hours by clicking this link. And nice. So her advice was genius. It worked. And one other point is, you were talking about algorithms with TikTok, and at the start, every single video I put on TikTok, it was getting 1,000 views no matter what. It's like it put me in this category where every video you put up, it's going to get 1,000 views no matter what you do, whatever you put up. And that was amazing. That's where I was having success. And then I had a glitch where my audio was off on my videos a little bit. And I thought maybe it was TikTok something was wrong. So I deleted TikTok and installed it again. And since then, instead of getting 1,000 views every video, the videos are getting like 15 views. It's almost like TikTok was like, we had you in this amazing algorithm. You deleted TikTok. Well, screw you, buddy, for deleting us. And we're putting you back. So
there is some weird stuff like that. Like that, even if, like even deleting a video we found like, we put up there's like, oh, I forgot, like the edit wasn't right or something or other, you delete it, and then all of a sudden it just like the dominoes stop, and it's like you have to restart or wait almost a week sometimes. I don't know, there's all kinds of weird stuff that who really knows what exactly it is, but it's better not to tamper with it. And even for what you said about deleting it because something was glitching on ours, and I mentioned that, well, maybe we have to like just reboot it or something. And then I don't know, I don't trust that, which is, which makes sense, because like that's something like that could happen, and then you're totally hooped. So I don't know, maybe delete it again. It'll like cancel itself out.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm terrified to ever delete TikTok, but when I first started, 1,000 views every video. Then I deleted 15 views for every video, like basically non-existent now. And then after a year of trying to rebuild, I only get like 100 views per video on TikTok. And that's steady. So it's like I'm in this bucket where they're allocating 100 views per video, and I'm slow building back up. But that's a lesson. Anyone listening, never delete your TikTok if you're really planning on building that up. I have 2 questions for you, final questions, and then we'll dive into your 5 favorite albums. These are questions. So I'm not married. I don't have kids. So this is as an outsider. I'm just curious, how has becoming a dad changed you as a person? I just want to know, if someday I become a dad, I can go back to this advice that you have. How has that changed you as a person?
A lot. I'm the focus is now 150% on the kids, as I feel like it should be. Because as an artist, I find a lot of artists tend to be, and I'll speak for myself, just selfish. You want to, self-gratifying. I want to achieve my goals. It's, how do I get my stuff out there? It's me kind of thing. As soon as you have a kid, it's like automatically, without even thinking about it, it just changes. As soon as I found out that Kiralee was pregnant, I was still touring around with, I had another band, Darenauts, trying to make that work. I had a little bit of stuff going, had some connections. So, it was just like, was really pushing for it. But unfortunately, a new band, never mind a band that's already somewhat successful, but like a new band, you're not making any money. You're just pouring money into this thing to get it going. And as soon as I found out that, Frankie was coming, I was like, well, I needed to find out I got to make money. That's basically what it is. Just like I can't be doing this, we're kind of living a free life, doing what we want. And I made a huge change. Went out west to work on the pipeline of all places. And I did that for a good amount of time, just to kind of get ourselves a little bit situated. So we're not struggling, or, it's everybody does it differently, but in my head, that's what I felt like I had to do. And obviously with the support of my wife, it was a plan that we came up with together, had the opportunity up there. And it was just like, we're having a kid. That's the focus now. There's no more me.
Yeah. I hear that one of the ways that it really changes you is, you mentioned this before about, especially musicians, we're kind of selfish, right? It's you have one dream and you that's your entire focus. But just as human beings, even if you're kind and you're generous, you're always looking out for yourself. So yes, you love your friends, you love your family, you do things for them, but essentially it's like that survival mechanism you have as a human. It's mostly you. And when you have a kid, it's the first time in your life.
First time.
that you truly know what it's like to be selfless, that there is something outside of you that is now more important than you. There is this new entity that will not survive unless you do your job as a parent.
Oh, it's crazy.
And that changes you from the selfishness that you have. The first time in your life, you know what it's like to truly, you would die for someone else, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that was the biggest thing. The second I found out, just like she has a picture of me when she tells me, maybe it was the video, and I'm just like a deer in the headlights. Like I was excited, but it's like excitement mixed with like, oh my God, like here we go. So no, it's great. And it's been a blessing. Absolutely the best experience. Just watching them grow and mature. And it's like, really looking forward to getting him into the music. They both have really good pitch. The Stevie especially has like a really good rhythm. They're both drawn to music, which is awesome. Actually, because of Tony, I saw a picture of him, like when he was still playing with us. He had a picture of him about 3 years old, and he's behind the piano and stuff. And I'm like, seeing that picture, put in my head, by 3 years old, the girls have to be playing piano or something, because like, I mean, if I want them to be as good as Tony, has to start at 3. I started doing stuff when I was like 8 years old. And then I talked to him, one of the times I was talking to him, and I'm like, I don't know, man, that like she doesn't seem to be gravitating to the piano or anything. Like she'll go play a little bit, but just not. No, it's just not like the way he looks like you did it. He's like, well, how old is she? I'm like, she's 3. So she's 3, man. And they're like, well, you did it at 3. He's like, no, I didn't. Like there's a picture there, but like I just started playing till I was 6 or something, which makes sense too. Just like their brains are like developing with so much intrigue and everything. It's like, how are you going to like focus at 3 years old to do something? Sorry, I kind of went off there on a little bit of a.
No, it's all good. But your daughters sing a little bit, don't they? Aren't there clips with them singing, I think, and it sounds pretty good.
Really good pitch. They gets it from their mom, because I definitely don't sing. But no, it at some point they're going to figure out what instrument makes sense for them, and we will support that 100%.
Last question about parenting. Do you have any advice for to couples that are maybe about to have their first kid? Any advice from what you've learned over the first 3 years or so as a parent?
Advice?
Feed them when they're hungry. That's like the number one.
Feed them when they're hungry and forget about sleep. Yeah. But advice, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It naturally comes to them, like you're just be there for every possible. I don't even know what I'm saying. Like, you just be a good parent. They're the most important thing. And there's no more real time for you until they get a little bit older. That's what it seems like. And I'm okay with that too. It's not like, I don't harbor no bad feelings, because the whole experience is actually incredible.
So the first time you came on the podcast, this was back in April of 2022 on episode number 55 of the podcast. And so for our listeners, if you guys want the full 2-hour deep dive where we cover his entire life, career, and discography, go back to episode number 55. I have the album cover here in your honor. So this is the Wall of Fame. These are my 12 favorite albums from guests that have been on the podcast. And I'm about to put up in this open space. I just got 6 more album covers. So I'm going to add 6 more and have the full wall. So I love the color stands out. So it's like a nice change in color from the rest of the wall. So that is there in your honor from the first interview. And that episode, still to this day, from 3-year history of the podcast, is still in the top 10 most downloaded episodes in the podcast history on Spotify, Google, and what's the other one? Apple. So the fans love it. So we wanted you back for your triumphant return. And what we're going to do now is we're going to dive into, this is a new series for the podcast called My 5 Favorite Albums. So what I do is I get the most popular guests that have been on before, and I bring them back They share their 5 favorite albums, and we nerd out over those albums. We dive into how you discovered them, why you think they're great, why they mean so much to you. We talk about, you know, how well they sold and how they changed the culture and the musical landscape. So let's dive into that stuff now. So we can start by sharing up front what the 5 albums are, so people know what we're going to talk about, and then we'll dive into each of those. Do you want to name off the 5 albums? I have them listed here if you want me to name them.
Yeah, honestly, even when you said 5 albums, it's such a hard thing to pinpoint that at that moment I gave you the 5 that like came to my head, but it's like they're not necessarily my 5 favorite. They're definitely like even top 10, maybe even top 20, but they're just like important albums to me for various reasons. So I'm not even sure what I said exactly.
All right, I'll share them, but this is what happens. So you're the 4th guest within this series, and every guest loves music so much that they have to make sure I'm aware that this list is basically just the moment I asked them, they gave these 5, but it could be, you know, they have a top 20 favorite albums. So here are 5 of your favorite albums out of maybe 20 favorite albums.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into these 5. And then at the end, we can do an honorable mention section where you can list off if there's other albums that are your favorite that we can't get to today. So the list you gave me: Nirvana, Nevermind; Stone Temple Pilots, Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop; Gorillaz, Demon Days; Mark Ronson, Record Collection; and Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. So lots of great music in there. Those, do you think, looking at that list of 5 albums, do you think that they influenced you as a drummer? So who you became as a drummer over time?
Well, definitely. Definitely Nevermind, because Dave Grohl is like one of my favorite drummers stylistically and musically.
So Stone Temple Pilots is rock, but the other 2 with Gorillaz, Mark Ronson, Kendrick Lamar, you know, a lot of those are drum tracks. So I don't know how much they would have influenced you.
I mean, as a drummer, that Nevermind would be the biggest influence. The other ones are more like the way I write music or I produce music. That's probably where that comes from. But yeah, 100% Nevermind was the biggest for me as a drummer.
So let's dive into that first album. So Nevermind from Nirvana comes out in 1991. I have so much to say about this because this is one of my favorite albums of all time. So I was excited to see it on the list here so I could dive into it once again. Do you remember the first time you heard the album Nevermind? Most people, it's from the single Smells Like Teen Spirit that took over the world.
Yeah. So the first thing I actually remember about the album was the cover. I went into I lived up in Northern Ontario, so it was like a convenience store. They would have like all these top albums. You got the Michael Jackson, the Queen, and somewhere in there was like a floating naked baby, and it was just like, how old was I? So 91. So I was like 9 years old. So it kind of like threw me off. It wasn't like I'm gonna dive into this album because it was like, this is such a strange cover. I was actually a huge Queen fan because there's like what my dad liked. So it was one of those kind of things that I didn't even have my own taste in music at this point, but I remember hearing on a separate occasion Teen Spirit on Much Music, and I did not put together that cover and that song were a thing. So still, it was probably a couple of years before I actually like figured that out. It might have been another year or so, like further on in their career. Like their major career didn't really last that long. You know, I mean, it was like 3 years, and it kind of went and gone. But when I heard Teen Spirit, I was like, "What is this song?" And like automatically was just drawn to it. And then when I found out through a buddy who had the album that that's what the 2 things were, then it opened up a whole different thing. And, you know, listen to the album, and you have right after Teen Spirit, another banger in Bloom. And it's just like the power behind all that. And even at the age of 9 or 10, you still, even though you hear it differently, like I hear the album differently now than I did then, it's still like, it's still so like important. It's never lost that. And through the years, I've obsessed about Nirvana and Kurt Cobain and Dave Grohl and all these things. So you kind of reading the books and just seeing the history and all the allure that's around his death, all these things, like as years go on, you like learn about them. It's an album that's definitely stuck with me and never gets old, front to back. It's a banger.
So that album cover, for our listeners, if you don't know it, it's one of the most famous album covers in music history. So there's a naked baby in a pool swimming towards a dollar bill that's on a hook. And it represents something. And what's funny is the baby in that picture, the guy's name is Spencer Eldon. And, that album came out in 91. So this is, 30 plus years ago. So that kid over the years has multiple times filed lawsuits against Nirvana trying to cash in on the fact that he's that kid. And,
after doing it, like redoing it so many times, right?
Right. So what's funny is, and this hurt him with the lawsuits, is so he filed these lawsuits essentially saying it's child exploitation, it's child pornography, it's whatever against his will. He was a baby. He couldn't choose to be in that picture or not. It's his private parts that are in the public domain. And the thing that came back to hurt him was for 30 years before the lawsuits, he cashed in on all these opportunities as the Nirvana baby. Like he loved that and he exploited it. And he has a Nirvana Nevermind tattoo on his chest. So this all hurts him. And he had done different events as the Nirvana baby and cashed in. So he's made money off of it. So there was a lawsuit. It got thrown out. He tried again, changing what the lawsuit was, tried again. And eventually just last year, it comes out in 91, just last year, it's been finalized for the last time. The final lawsuit was stopped. They said he can no longer file lawsuits. And a big part was there's a number of years in which you can sue for something. And he had waited way too long to actually file the lawsuit for it. So I thought that was kind of funny.
No, it's it's funny and ridiculous because it's only recently around the 30th anniversary where the script flipped from. Up to then, it was like, oh yeah, I'm 20 years old, I'm naked in a pool or in boxers. It's like all fun and games. And all of a sudden, wait, now he's trying to sue. I guess all his money ran out because that's what it seems like comes down for. That's what everybody wants, essentially. At some point, it's like, oh, I maybe could get more money out of this, and that's silly.
So the album comes out in 1991. It becomes one of the most acclaimed, and influential albums in music history. It goes diamond in the US. It sells over 30 million copies worldwide. So it's one of the best-selling albums of all time, period.
Yeah.
And one thing that's cool is on the last episode of my 5 favorite albums, I had David Bottrell, 3-time Grammy Award-winning producer. He did albums for Tool and Peter Gabriel, all these huge artists. And in his 5 favorite albums, so he didn't have Nirvana Nevermind, but he had Radiohead OK Computer. And
Nice.
One thing that I had said is anytime I see a list of the best albums from the 90s, there's always 2 albums that make that list. There's Nirvana Nevermind in 91, and then which is the start of the 90s. And then near the end of the 90s, you have Radiohead OK Computer. And what's awesome is, I said that in the last episode. And then in this episode, you have the other album, you have Nevermind in here. So you kind of proved my theory that these are the 2 great 90s albums. Did you ever get into Radiohead OK Computer at all?
Love that album. Yeah, absolutely. Even the one after where they went, I forgot the name of it, but they go a little bit. Kid A, that's right. Yeah, they definitely went on a whole like just left field. It seemed like to almost like less
was
more
less rock, right? They dropped the guitars, which they were
they
known
were
for.
really experimental, and it still worked for them, which was impressive, you know. But yeah, amazing band. And yes, OK Computer, it's one that uh, I definitely have in rotation certain time of the year. That's kind of like where if I feel like if you asked me my favorite albums in the summer, I'd give you a whole different list. But
I
OK
feel
Computer,
like Sublime would be on that list in
yeah,
the summer.
for sure. Like I don't listen to them as much as I used to, but it's, you know, when I put it on, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I love this for sure.
How incredible is it that you have Dave Grohl, who is the drummer for Nirvana, one of the biggest bands in music history, and then he goes on to be the singer, the guitarist, the
Crazy.
songwriter for Foo Fighters, who go on to be one of the biggest bands in music history. So, number one, how improbable is it that one person ends up doing those two things? And number two, how talented is Dave Grohl to be the person that has done that?
Yeah, it's like talent, obviously, the serious luck, the skill, and I'm sure the fact that he seems to be a really genuine good dude goes into play too. Because you could after Nirvana, you could be an arrogant prick and, you know, easily completely go a different way. But he seemed to govern himself in a way that has given him a very long and lucrative career. But he does, you know, he's got his formula. I love Foo Fighters. Those first two records also are honorable mentions for myself, because that was the thing with Nirvana, was just like where it started to what it even became. The fact that Dave Grohl has become the biggest rock star, biggest frontman, like there's nothing like that anymore. You know, like who's the last rock star that you actually even see on that scale? I don't really know. I mean, maybe the Gallagher brothers, but they're not really together anymore. So it's like, yeah, he's one of the last. I feel, anyways.
Yeah, Nevermind was a turning point in music, because when Nevermind went to number one, the album that it dethroned that was already at number one was Michael Jackson. So
Great.
it's like that's what was popular, Michael Jackson. And this grunge band, before grunge
Yeah.
was popular, grunge band from Seattle. And there were, you know, they there wasn't a big budget for the album. They didn't have high expectations. So this grunge band dethrones Michael Jackson, and it showed a turning point of where music was and then where music went for years after that.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think makes Nevermind such a great album?
I don't know, man. It's no timing definitely helped. I think just people were over the hair metal and what was going on in rock. Um, and like I guess the climate of what the new generation was feeling versus what happened before too. You know, like there was a different. I don't remember the '80s very well, but just like from seeing the videos and the kind of what was popular, just it seemed like it was a time for change. But the album, it's great song choices, great writing. That just the opening of it too is just so like catchy, you know, like the riff, simple riff into that open drum thing, and then everything comes in. It's just so addictive, and like as soon as you hear it, for me anyways, like I said, I was 9 years old and heard it, and right away like, what the hell's that? And along with the whole other generation of people that were actually more immersed in it, you know, it would have been kind of cool to be a teenager in that time and go see them live, and like be incredible to be in that time. But the album is just, it's powerful. The songs are really good. I love the production on it, even though there's interviews of Kurt saying how
They hated. Yeah.
he hated it, but it was just, I think it was just like a, you know, like a silly comment made, because I've recently even both Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic on separate occasions said like he was hot and cold all the time. Like we loved the album. They heard it, they were freaking out as a band. Like as soon as they heard it the first time, they absolutely loved it. And this as success grew, maybe he obviously got too popular for what he expected, and it's hard to handle that, especially at an age in your mid-20s, along with having a serious drug problem too that'll play with your mind. So whoever is in your ear, all these things, all of a sudden you're saying how much you don't like the way it sounds, but it sounds great to this day. It friggin' holds up like really, really well, especially for three guys in a studio. So Butch Vig really did a fantastic job on that. And yeah, I don't know, just right timing for a amazing album.
Yeah, it's such a polished recording. And the album was originally mixed by Butch Vig, who produced it. So he originally mixed it, and he wasn't happy with his mix, and the band wasn't happy with his mix. So they went out looking for someone else to mix it, and they ended up getting Andy Wallace because he had done some Slayer albums. So they thought, well, if this guy can make Slayer, who's really heavy, he can make them sound good, we'll go with him. And again, the album sounds incredible. Over the years, Nirvana members have said it was too polished. And that's why with the next album, In Utero, it's very raw. They went back to more of like a garage sound. And I have a quote here. So Steve Albini ended up producing the next album, In Utero, instead of Butch Vig. And Steve Albini said this about the original mixes from Butch Vig. So he heard them, even though it wasn't the mix used on the album that everyone knows. Steve Albini, he said, Butch Vig's initial mix sounded maybe 200 times more ass-kicking than the final version of Nevermind. So Nevermind, as we know it, sounds incredible, super polished. Yeah. And Steve Albini is saying the actual not as polished mixes from Butch Vig were 200 times more badass. Can you imagine the album sounding any different than it sounds?
I've heard those mixes because they have them on all like the released versions, and it's like they sound good in their own right, but it's like, I don't know, my ears love that, just what it is. I love that it's clean. It's like it's polished, but it's still, you still get like the grit and all the squealing of the guitars and like random, I don't know. I think it sounds great, and I don't know, I love the way it sounds. I wouldn't change anything about it, but
I think the hidden weapon of that album is, yes, it's grunge and it's heavy and it's loud, but if you were to strip away all those heavy instruments, essentially it's a pop album. Like it's a pop album with this heavy exterior. But if you take the whole album and you and I just around a campfire played it acoustic, it's like Beatles type melodies, which was a big influence on Kurt Cobain. I think that's what he did different with this album, is instead of heavy just being heavy for heavy's sake, it's actually very melodic underneath.
Totally. I think compared to In Utero, which was almost rushed, and you're writing it in the midst of like the chaos that I can't even imagine the level of chaos that they were in. But during that time when he was writing it, versus when he's had almost his whole career up to Nevermind to write this album, polish it, rewrite the songs, like, because some of those songs were, I know, like In Bloom for sure was written way before even Dave Grohl was part of it. So like he's had the ideas, and he's had time to massage it, but the melodies, like you said, are very, very melodic, even with his like strained vocals, which adds this like the grunge to it, but the melodies are very melodic, they stick in your head, super catchy stuff. So yeah, it's like a really, really interesting way of creating a new genre almost.
So the 4 singles: Smells Like Teen Spirit, Come As You Are, Lithium, and In Bloom. And the label released Smells Like Teen Spirit as the first single because they thought it would generate this alternative rock fan base. So they didn't have high expectations, but they thought it was a good way of creating the image of the sound they wanted for the band, but
Yeah.
they all thought Come As You Are was the big single. So
That's
it was
right.
everything was leading to when Come As You Are eventually comes out, that's where the album will do pretty well. So they
Yeah.
didn't expect what happened with Smells Like Teen Spirit. So it's kind of funny that,
Yeah. They only
it's not
pressed
what
like
you think.
they only pressed I think 50,000 copies or something at the beginning, and then just obviously couldn't keep it stocked. My understanding was it was the when they released the video was like when it really popped off. On
It just captured that energy, right?
well, it's
The cheerleaders in
amazing. Yeah,
a
it's
high school.
so dirty. So like just like pep rally gone nuts. Such a cool. Yeah, just nothing. There was nothing like it. But
I have a cool quote about Smells Like Teen Spirit. So this is from the president of Geffen Records. He had said Smells Like Teen Spirit had become a hit, and the album was selling so fast that none of Geffen's marketing strategies could be enacted. They didn't have enough time to actually follow through with the marketing. And he says he told the New York Times, "We didn't do anything. It was one of those get out of the way and duck records where
amazing.
it was the strength of the music itself that propelled that album."
Yeah, no, it connected with a generation. It was like time to, time to be a little angry and a little sad, but at the same time, party, I guess, because it has an energy to it, but like it's very angsty, like teenage life is hard, which it definitely is. It just connected the right way. So it's awesome. To this day, still one of my favorite. And when I put it on, I will listen through every single track.
My favorite song on that album has always been Lounge Act. So it's not
Lounge
one of the
awesome.
singles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have is there any favorite song on the album? It's so good. Like it's hard to pick one, but any
Yeah.
single favorite song?
No, Lounge Act is awesome because when I play guitar, it's like the one that's fun to sing, and I love the lyrics. Like just it's like a kind of a cool romantic almost song. And I like On a Plane too. On a Plane is like a really cool. Just the melody in it is amazing. And then even with illScarlett, we jam what's it called? Territorial Pissings all the time, which is like a fun,
That's more the punk.
awesome punk tune. Yeah. So we've played that live before. It always throws people off like in a good way. They also hear like, what the hell, playing like a Nirvana song, but it works. Yeah, it's hard to say, man. Like they're all so good, even Something in a Way recently, like years later now, it was like pretty much the soundtrack for the new Batman movie.
They really use that song well.
Yeah, like you never think of that song because at the very end it's so like droney, like very like almost very sad, and then they added to the movie where things are blowing up. There's all this chaos. Like
he's like riding on his bike or something during.
Yeah,
that.
just like works so well. So it's the fact that 30 years later, that's the one that's coming out, and on Spotify, you look at the numbers, like that movie, like really made those
the single charted again.
Yeah, brought that song to life. It was crazy.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that another thing that stands out to me are the harmonies. So it has like very subtle and beautiful harmonies, like something in the Way, but also songs like Polly. I found that the harmonies, I think Dave Grohl does some of the harmonies, but it's a lot of Cobain doing the harmonies. Did the harmonies stand out to you at all?
I don't know if I when I listen to the album, I'm harmonizing the whole time. So I guess it does. Like I never really thought about it, but just when I listen to it, it's like that's just the way I sing along. It's like I'm trying to always either find ones that are different, or just like listening to the ones that are there. Just kind of I feel like I'm more part of the experience when I'm listening to it, when I'm like harmonizing, and I don't know. So yeah, I guess so, because they're such good melodies. It's easy to harmonize too.
Because of the success of Nevermind, I know that my band at the time, when we were writing songs, we would copy Nirvana's where they had the clean verses and then the distortion chorus, right? You'd play clean and then the big distortion chorus came in. Everyone got the distortion pedal. So that changed the way young bands were writing music. I know my bands, those were our songs, clean verse, distorted chorus. Were you ever in bands where that was also the case?
My first band when I moved to Mississauga was almost strictly a Nirvana cover band. So we would meet up every weekend, come to my house with my two buddies that, had the hair and would just one wanted to be Kurt and one, just we were obsessed, the posters everywhere. And we would just for hours just play in my basement. And that's to this, another reason I'm thankful to my mom, because I could only imagine how that sounded, just screaming and screaming for 4 hours every single Saturday on her day off. But she was super cool about it. So yeah, that was my first band. And then when Alex and I joined, that's kind of what we knew as well, because we're from the 90s. He's a huge Weezer fan, which has the same dynamic, kind of, loud, quiet, loud, melodic. So our first band, before we were called illScarlett, we were like a little emo band called Saturday Morning Cartoon Special. And it was literally it was that dynamic. It was just I'm so sad. Go loud in the choruses. And that's 100%. That's what our musical history has been.
So even though Kurt Cobain was kind of this tortured soul, he struggled with depression and substance abuse. He always had stomach pains. He always had issues with his stomach. And you and I know when you don't feel well, it's that messes with your mental health. And if you don't feel good, it's life isn't good or isn't great. So despite all that, he was known for his sense of humor. And before they settled on the title Nevermind for this album, the album was actually just called Sheep. They were going to call the album Sheep. And it's because Cobain was referring to the people he thought would buy the album. He thought just the sheep would come out once there's a nice polish on it, once they're on a major label. He thought it would be just the sheep that come out and buy the album. So I thought that was funny. I had never heard that before.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard that either. Fun fact.
Yeah, Nirvana with their big album Sheep, so it doesn't have the same ring to it. The album got nominated for 3 Grammys, so that was a big deal. And one thing I thought was cool is when it comes to rap, so this is aside for a second, but when it comes to rap, rap was always about pumping yourself up and about girls and sex and money and all that stuff. And then it was kind of Kanye West and Drake popularized kind of the emo side of rap, where it's okay to talk about your feelings and emotions and sadness. The equivalent is actually Nirvana. And I have a quote here. So it says, contrary to the popular hedonistic themes of drugs and sex at the time, writers have observed that Nevermind reinvigorated sensitivity to mainstream rock. So it kind of did the same thing, where Cobain wasn't singing about girls and money and sex. He brought in something different. Yeah,
that's probably why I connected, because people, especially teenagers, well, everybody actually is going through their own thing, and at a time where mental health wasn't a popular term that was tossed around. So music like that would actually connect with people, I imagine, in a way. It's wow, somebody else feels shitty, and that's kind of, it's something to latch onto, I guess.
So I have a quote here from a critic that kind of speaks to what you just said. So Michael Azarad said, Nevermind came along at exactly the right time. This was music by, for, and about a whole new group of young people who had been overlooked, ignored, or condescended to. So that's kind of what you said.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So just a couple more things about Nirvana, and then we'll dive into your second album here. So at the end of the Nirvana album Nevermind, there's a hidden track. So it's called Endless Nameless.
Yeah.
And if you now go on Spotify, it's just there as another track, right? You can't really have the hidden track when it's streaming. But what's funny is in the original pressing of, say, 20 or 30,000 copies, that hidden track, it's supposed to be on the very last song, like 15 minutes.
That's right, the secret song, yeah.
And in the initial pressings, it wasn't there. And what happened is the guy that mastered the album, he later on said that it was just verbally told to him in passing, like, oh, by the way, we have this song, Endless Nameless. We want it 15 minutes into the final track. And they just kind of told him in passing, and he forgot. He never wrote it down. Yeah. So the first 20 or 30,000 albums do not have a hidden track.
Wow, that'd be a good one to have.
You know, the other 30 million copies since then have it. So I thought that was a cool little bit of like music history there.
See, I didn't know about that track. And the first time I heard it, it scared the living shit out of me, because I had it cranked on the speaker, and then all of a sudden the album
nothing for a while, and
yeah, it's just like what's happening? Dun, 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 like, and such a like non-conventional song, you know. He just starts screaming, going on a tangent. So it's like I didn't even love it. I didn't find the love for that song till like later on, because it was like the rest of the album so poppy and so melodic, and then you have this like beast coming out of a cave thing happening, and it was just like super weird. But the artistry, I appreciate the artistry now, and I love it. Now I love it, but it took me a while to love it.
So 2 final things about Nevermind. So Rolling Stone, their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, they have Nevermind at number 6. Every album released in human history, the 6th greatest album of all time, they have Nevermind. So that's like, that's a huge deal. And the last thing, I have one more quote that I thought helps to describe this album. So Gary Gersh says, there is a pre-Nirvana and a post-Nirvana record business. Nevermind showed that this wasn't some alternative thing happening off in a corner and then back to reality. This is reality.
Yeah.
Not a bad quote. So let's talk about the second album on your list of favorite albums, Stone Temple Pilots, Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop. This is from 1996. How does this album come into your life?
Comes in also thanks to Much Music. The Big Bang Baby video is what brought the attention, because the new album from Stone Temple Pilots, I was familiar with the band. I liked the album Purple, but I wasn't like a huge fan of them. I did like the band, but once I heard Big Bang Baby, for whatever reason, just like same thing, like the video was not your usual MTV video. It was like, it almost seemed low budget, but kind of quirky 70s thing going on. Like artistically it was really neat. And the song is also like just different than what was out there. Automatically captivated me. So I fell in love with it that way, got the album for Christmas. And it's one of those albums that I don't even know too much about it, like the
geeky facts.
Yeah, the geeky facts. Brendan O'Brien that produced it. Yeah. But yeah, later on I kind of dove in a little bit more into it. But it's an album that for whatever reason, it's just there's a certain atmosphere about it that I really like, and it's one of those ones that I'll put on at least a couple times a year, and the same thing front to back. We'll listen to it. It also made me love the other stuff, the earlier stuff from Stone Temple Pilots. The first two records are great. Core is awesome. I find in Core he kind of still finding his voice. Kind of sounds a little too much like Eddie Vedder or something. Like, they're doing that kind of thing, which he, by the time Purple came along, he kind of like found it, and then by the time the Vatican Gift Shop came up, it was just I think the band was also going through a lot of turmoil with his drug use and whatnot. But don't know too many fun facts about it. It's just an album that I really love the sound of. I love the songs, and to this day I could listen back a few times a year, front to back, and I feel like that's going to be the case for as long as I could hear it.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't know all the facts about it. That's what I bring to the interview is all
Perfect.
the geeky numbers. You share why you love it, and then
Teach
I
me.
I bring all the behind the scenes stories and the geeky stuff. So most people love their debut core, which is more heavy grungy,
Yeah.
or they love Purple, and you
Purple's
mentioned both
awesome.
of those. So those
Yeah.
are kind of, I guess, the two. I don't know if it's their two biggest or their two most mainstream or two most beloved. And then this one for you. So I thought that was kind of cool that it seemed like a different choice from the Stone Temple Pilots catalog.
Yeah. I love Purple. Like that one is awesome. The songs are incredible. Like I said, the core, I think he's finding himself, and it is there. I think the band was just trying to kind of go with what was happening. I don't know what, there's just what seems like to me, but yeah, no, back in gift shop, but just like, it's really their musicianship. I think I did read it in a article somewhere. Is like where they were just like, there was, whether it was less stress or it was finding themselves as musicians trying to sound less of what is going on, and like not being so forced by the label. It's just like they made this album for themselves, you know. But yeah, I love it. What other fun facts do you have about them?
I have so many fun facts. So I haven't heard this album in a very long time. So I went back and listened to your 5 favorite albums. I went and listened in depth to make sure I'm ready for this interview. And I was shocked at how different this album was from Core and Purple. Instead of being like a grunge band or a heavy rock band, they sounded more like an alternative rock band or even an indie sounding band.
Yeah.
And there were a few songs where I was like, this is like, it sounds like the Beatles or like singer songwriter type melodies and
Yeah.
structures. Like I was actually shocked at how different the music was on this album for Stone Temple Pilots than before. It was shocking.
Yeah, there's like a bossa nova song on there, you know. I mean, like that just nicely nuzzles in with the rest of the flow of the album, and it works. Um, really cool melodies, like very, very good writing. His lyrics, I find, also have always intrigued me. I've always loved his voice. The whole band is amazing. Like the two brothers, guitar and bass, the DeLeo brothers or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. Did you enjoy it?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Find a new love for it?
Yeah, well, I was really familiar with the 3 singles. So Big Bang Baby, you mentioned, was the first video that caught your attention. Tripping on a Hole in a Paper Heart, which is quite the song title, and
Yeah.
Lady Picture Show. So all 3 of those went to #1 on mainstream rock radio. So
Cool.
the singles were a big deal, and the album goes 2 times platinum, so it's a big success. And I actually saw Stone Temple Pilots way back in the day. So my dad and I, you know, we've mostly gone along our entire lives, but there was one point in time way back in like 2000 where I was, you know, starting to rebel a bit and was skateboarding 8 hours a day and like, you know, the big baggy pants and you know, trying to be my own character. And it's like, at that point in time, you're trying to be cool and you weren't really
Yeah.
nice to everyone. And like, you're listening to darker music. So there was, at that point, it's like my dad and I were kind of clashing a bit. It's like
Yeah.
my new identity. I felt like he didn't understand me anymore. And it's like, I'm the one that went and changed and wasn't, you know, who I
Yeah.
normally am. And his way of trying to reconnect was, he said, "Hey, I got us some tickets to a concert. We lived in Ottawa, and I got you tickets to a concert in New York State. So we have to do a road trip, which
Nice.
means just you and I have to connect over hours both ways,
That's
and then
smart.
we would be camping, you know, the night of the concert. So there's more bonding. So that was his thing, and I don't know how he knew to get." How he was cool enough to know what bands to get, but he got me tickets to see Fishbone opening for Stone Temple Pilots, opening for Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I went to that
That show maybe in Toronto or
in
something.
Toronto. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was there. It was about 2000. It was at the time of Chili Peppers Californication when they
Yeah.
broke big again. What is your memory of seeing them live? Did you see them again since then, or that was the one time?
Uh, no, that was the one time. I think it was the only time. And honestly, I don't like shows at the amphitheater for just like I prefer like a good venue, a 2,000 seater or something like that's the max. I find that's the best experience. So I don't know. It honestly wasn't very memorable. Um, I went there for them, but their set was a little shorter. Wasn't there for Chili Peppers. I've always been like, I like the Chili Peppers, but I don't love the Chili Peppers. Um, so I went there specifically for Stone Temple Pilots, and yeah, for whatever reason, it wasn't as memorable as I. Oh, you know what? Actually, I did see Stone Temple Pilots one other time, but with the new singer, and I did not like
It's
that at all.
not the same, right?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, it was like, but with Scott, I saw it the one time. Also, it was like in high school, and I smoked a joint, and I think I got really really high. So the part of that must have like skewed my perception to maybe a little too paranoid, whatever. But just for whatever reason, it wasn't that experience that I was hoping for. But all the different factors come into play there. So yeah, I also the before Scott Whelan passed away, he played in Toronto at Adelaide Hall about 2 nights before he ended up like overdosing or whatever. So I also was about to go to the show to see his solo thing, and I, for whatever reasons, I'll get him next time. I was tired or just something, and it's like such a regret because I would have loved to see that. You know, there's no, I'm not going to get to do that ever again. But yeah, unfortunately for a band that I do have a love for, especially those first three albums, I never had an amazing experience seeing them live.
So as you're talking about seeing that concert, it just reminded me of two funny stories from when I saw them with my dad. So one was at that time, I just came home one day and I had bleached my hair blonde. So I had the spiky, like Deftones blonde hair,
Yeah.
and I had pierced both my ears.
Oh,
And
he
it's
must
like,
love that.
no, and you know, that's not mainstream at that time. Like everyone kind of has that stuff now. It doesn't matter. But back then, so I remember we go to the concert and Scott goes on stage with Stone Temple Pilots. He's got no shirt. He's ripped, but kind of like drug addict skinny ripped, where you're like, you don't know if he's doing okay. Yeah. He has bleach blonde hair as well, and he has both ears pierced. And I made the mistake of saying, see, Dad, like this guy has blonde hair and, you know, bleached hair and two earrings.
We're going home right now.
Yeah, and my dad's like, that's your example, this lizard slithering looking drug addict rock star. So anyways, that was a mistake I made. I thought that was funny. And the other thing is, when Stone Temple Pilots played, it was insanely loud, like really really loud. And then when they get off and they're setting up for the Chili Peppers, all you see is a new set of speakers drop down. And my dad's like, oh my God, it's about to get louder than the Stone Temple Pilots were. So those are two moments that I remember.
I'm a big advocate, even though I think it's the dad in me is like, I go to the show and I prefer to put plugs in because I hear it better, you know, like it's just takes out the certain frequencies that hurt. And then I could like kind of, for whatever reason, hear the show better. So, and save whatever I have left of my hearing, because there's not much left.
I always found that Scott he was like a chameleon when it came to his vocals, that he could do the heavy grungy stuff. He could sound like himself, but some songs he kind of sounded like Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. Then he was singing more kind of jazzy bluesy, and then he could be quiet. I found that he had one of the most versatile voices in rock, and that you could listen to their entire discography and it sounds like there's 15 different singers, and that's the control he had on his voice. Did you find the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I actually loved the stuff that he did with Velvet Revolver, like so kind of going to those like big rock songs, almost a little more 80s sounding. Well, because it's Guns N' Roses backing him and stuff, but like just his vocals and his approach to that, just like uh, powerful arena rock songs. So yeah, for sure love that. But I do like that kind of. Still, my favorite is when I think about it is all the stuff, the way he approached it on Vatican Gift Shop, just like kind of see, he seems a little haggard there, and like honest, from reading through his history, he's always definitely had a pretty up and down kind of life with mainly the drugs is what screwed everything up for him. So he'd be on, he'd be off, he'd be on, and he'd be off, relapse. It's just like, and sadly to say, I feel like some of the best stuff almost came when he was using, not to promote that or think that it's a good thing. It's just like when I looked into it, when he was using and when he wasn't, it seems like some of that stuff was the better music to me, but that doesn't really matter. Don't do drugs.
Yeah. Don't do drugs. Yeah. Sometimes it's like a musician's pain is everyone else's pleasure, right? Like if you don't have the heartbreaks and all those things, you're not writing that music that other people then go and enjoy. So it's tough.
Well, that's where the honesty comes, right? Like, it's one thing trying to write a song about heartbreak or about going through something versus going through something and then expressing it in art. You can't fake it. And when you try to fake it, it always bleeds through. And it's, I found Vatican Gift Shop to be very, very honest. So.
It's weird. I actually forgot that he sang for Velvet Revolver while preparing for this interview. Like I know Velvet Revolver. I knew that he sang for them, but for some reason I just that was absent from my mind while preparing for this. So yeah, he also sang for Velvet Revolver, and they had multi-platinum success as well. I have a quote here from this is Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins. So he's known he doesn't always say the nicest things. So getting kind words from him is a big deal, and I want to share that. So after Scott passed away, Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins said, "It was STP's third album, the one we're talking about, that got me hooked. A wizardly mix of glam and post-punk, and I confessed to Scott, as well as the band many times, how wrong I'd been in assessing their native brilliance. And like Bowie can and does, it was Scott's phrasing that pushed his music into a unique and hard to pin down aesthetic sonic sphere. If you ask me who I truly believe were the great voices of our generation, I would say it was Scott, Lane, which is Alice in Chains, and Kurt Cobain. So that's pretty cool to hear from Billy Corgan.
Yeah, Billy Corgan's a tough one, but that's a nice thing. Yeah.
He's a tough critic. So yeah, if you get kind words from him. So I have 3 final reviews about the album, and then we'll talk about your third album here. So the AV Club noted that Tiny Music was almost a shocking leap forward in the creative ambition, and that Stone Temple Pilots got weirder and better than anyone gives them credit for. Another review, All Music says Tiny Music illustrates that the band aren't content with resting on their laurels. STP have added a new array of sounds that lend depth to their immediately accessible hooks, naming shoegaze and jangle pop as 2 examples of genres explored on the album. He also wrote that the album showcases the band at their most tuneful and creative. And in the final review, Alternative Nation said Tiny Music really gelled the individual band members' musical taste together into a new sound. So you have vocalist Scott's underground punk and glam sensibilities, guitarist Dean DeLeo's upbringing in 60s and 70s rock, and bassist Robert DeLeo's interest in genres like jazz and bossa nova. So 3 final things about the album.
Awesome.
Are you ready for the next album here?
Let's go.
All right. So Gorillaz, Demon Days in 2005. I know you're a fan of Gorillaz because your band, the Dare Nots, covers Gorillaz, I believe. So how does this album come into your life?
This album comes into my life in my 1A days, like Streetsville days. It was like a summer day. I like the single. The single was already kind of going. What's it called
Feel Good Inc.
Feel Good Inc. was going, obviously, so that was a huge song. So that's how I guess heard it. But the Al one of the guy, maybe it was, I think it was Pat, my buddy Pat, used to be in illScarlett. He had the album and he was playing it, and I walked into to the apartment, and it was the song before Feel Good Inc., Dirty Harry, that was playing, and I didn't know what this was, but it was just such a new sounding thing to me. It just like right away, it's like, what is this? Like, what are we listening to? Like, I need to invest, like I need to get into this.
That
right
song
away.
has a great groove, like a great
Amazing. You know, it just like it just, I'm surprised. Was it a single? I don't think it was.
I think it's one of the four singles, but it's like a later single.
Yeah. So it was like, as it was kind of on its way out, I guess. But that's the song that caught me. Like, what I didn't know was Gorillaz, and then they said it's the new Gorillaz album, and that's what made me like get that and see what's the rest of the album like. And that album, that album, it was just one of those also perfect time and moments for me. You know, a lot of nostalgia attached to it. It was like a cool time in my life, summertime, a lot of fun memories that occurred while it was out, while I was listening to it. So it's always stuck with me. Plus, I love the production. I love how it's like, it's all over the map, but it works like cohesively. You know, you have, whether it's the rapping, the beats, the just little like skits that are in there. It's very creative. They're like extremely creative. And it's even a contrast to their first album, where it's like, seems like the first one was let's try this, and the second one was like let's focus on this, because clearly there was a bit of success. There was big success with the first one, but this one was more rounded. I think Danger Mouse
Produced it.
Was the producer, which I'm a huge fan of Danger Mouse and everything. Even to this day, some of the stuff that he puts out is just like very, very creative. I love his take on kind of like dirty samples, and that album just really, really connected with me at a time in my life where a lot of cool events were happening. illScarlett was also starting to kind of get a little bit of traction, so that was like, you know, a bit of a soundtrack for that summer. But yeah, what fun facts do you got for this one?
It's funny. Sometimes albums are ahead of their time. So they come out like this one, it comes out and it only got modestly positive reviews. It wasn't like critical acclaim or overwhelming critical acclaim. And it's over time that in retrospect, it's now considered one of the greatest albums of all time. So I have something here. So Demon Days is now considered to have left an indelible mark on the alternative music, and has since been hailed as iconic, classic, timeless, and a modern masterpiece. And it, when it came out, it just, it did very well because of the singles, but critics still thought, because of the first album, they thought that was kind of a gimmick. And on this album, it's like, okay, well, there's something here, and it's a little less of a gimmick, but it's like they hadn't warmed up to, this is actually like genius stuff going on with Damon Albarn. And over the years, all those albums since then have been the greatest albums of the years that they're released. They're all nominated for Grammys and up for Album of the Year. And Gorillaz are one of the biggest bands in the world, one of the most acclaimed band. They sell out arenas. Yeah. But back then, it's like they still hadn't had their due come to them. So it's kind of crazy to think that it's like we don't get it when it first happens.
Yeah, I absolutely got it. Like I was hooked automatically. I've never been one to like read the reviews and base my facts and opinions off that. I think illScarlett's got burned on so many reviews that it's just like I had to shut that part of my life off. It's just like, okay, well, that's just a person's opinion. And then like if I listen to a crappy review of Demon Days and would have just let that one slide because someone didn't like or whatever, it's a gimmick. Okay, well, it's a gimmick, I guess, but it's creative. The music is awesome. It makes you feel something. I don't know. I personally, as soon as I heard Dirty Harry was the first thing after the single. I love the single, but when I heard Dirty Harry, I was like, I need to really get into this album. And
so there were 4 singles. We've mentioned 2 of them already, Dirty Harry and Feel Good Inc. There was also Dare and Kids with Guns. So Kids with Guns, I don't remember being a single. So I guess, again, it was on the way out, the final single.
Dare was awesome.
Yeah. So the first single, Feel Good Inc., that won them a Grammy. So best pop collaboration with vocals. And even though the first album did well, because Clint Eastwood was such a big single, the album still sold millions. But this album went on to sell 8 million copies. I had no idea it was that big. Did you have any idea it was that big? That's monster. 8 million. It's crazy. I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
No idea it was that big. I have a thing here that kind of, for our listeners that haven't had a chance to hear Demon Days, I have a description from Damon Albarn himself that kind of paints a picture of the album. So Albarn says, the album is meant to be a depiction of a journey through the night in which each track represents a confrontation with a personal demon. So
cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So it's like almost like a concept album of some sort.
I have two I guess two quick reviews, and then one little thing about Dirty Harry. So Diffuser has called Demon Days a dense and let's start that again. Diffuser has called Demon Days dense and atmospheric, one of the most innovative albums of the 21st century. And then Mixed Frequency said that Demon Days is as dense as a 50-minute album can be, packed with hit after hit, feature after feature, and changes in musical style so fast that it can give you whiplash if you're not prepared for it. It's a dark, apocalyptic album that brims with energy and funk, a pop music oxymoron in every fiber of its being. It's an idiosyncrasy made manifest, something that uses sounds from every possible corner of the musical world and blends them together, in turn sounding almost entirely its own. So I thought those were good descriptions of the album. And the last thing is, you were talking about Dirty Harry is the first song you heard. I was mentioning that I thought it had a great groove to it. I didn't know this, but in 2020, that song started trending on TikTok because people were making their own videos that featured them as cartoon characters in reference to gorillas. So we talked about TikTok with you and the Pior family, and TikTok brought Dirty Harry back to being a success back in 2020. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
No, I didn't. But that's amazing. TikTok is pretty interesting for that, like bringing songs that are just feels like they've been long gone and forgotten, and all of a sudden it's charting, and it's giving life to artists once again. It's like almost like winning the lottery 12 years later or something.
Yeah, that happened with Fleetwood Mac Dreams, the guy with the ocean spray skateboarding on TikTok.
Oh yeah,
that went viral, and then Dreams was a legit top 10 hit, like it was a new song again. It was top 10 on Billboard, and they ended up selling a ton of albums again because of one TikTok video. So let's dive into your 4th album on this list of favorite albums, Mark Ronson, Record Collection, 2010. Why does this album mean so much to you? So I have a confession. This is the only album out of the 5 that we're diving into that I was not familiar with. I had never played this album before. I didn't actually know a single song on this album before. So thank you for introducing this to me. I went and listened to it. Why do you love this album so much?
Same thing. I guess same thing. It was time and place, very nostalgic. A lot of the nostalgia associated with it, but same thing. I think the same person that introduced me to Demon Days, Pat, he's got a great ear for music, and like finding stuff that is good, but also stuff that I find him and I both see eye to eye on. And he showed me this album, and I like the album because it's a producer kind of putting his best, his own collective together. So Mark Ronson's really known for doing. He produced Amy Winehouse's Back to Black, and who else is a big one he did? Lily Allen, All Right Still, which like same thing, like both those albums from a production value just have this like freshness, but also taking from classic Motown kind of vibe, but putting it in a just a new like an urban twist to it. I don't know what it is, but I love it. So when I found out that he actually has his own solo albums, specifically with that one, he played it for me, and there's the first song, Bang Bang Bang, that just like it has an infectious beat, really cool parts. And then as you go through the album, it's just there's so many ebbs and flows. So it's not just like one sounding thing, but it gels together in a similar kind of way, like the Gorillaz album. I'm always been into this like kind of ambiguous kind of non-genre type of music. I like Beck. I love Beck for this kind of stuff. So yeah, I found the album to be very, very creative. It definitely gave me a new love for Mark Ronson, and so from then on, like everything that he puts out it's something that I'm definitely listening to and searching for. Other than that, yeah, it's nothing like specific that other than it, great songs, also really good, some really good artists on there, because that's a thing that he does. He'll come up with these songs, and then he'll have a lot of guests. Gorillaz do the same thing. That's kind of been my own personal goal or kind of dream to at some point do something like that. And Dare Nots was a sort of attempt at that, but it ended up turning into more of a band. But I have whole bunch of drives full of beats and instrumentals and stuff that I've made, and then I've a lot of musician friends that I've collaborated with, and one at some point I'm still going to do it. This kind of collaboration where these are all different kind of beats, and getting different artists to sing, because that's my biggest weakness. Is I'm not great at lyrics. Melodies I'm okay at, but like the lyrics are the hardest thing. So it's you find good lyricists with good vocals and put something like that together. And I find after hearing that album, it really inspired me to put this side project at some point that I want to create.
So you mentioned the first single, Bang Bang Bang. The other two singles were the Bike Song and Somebody to Love Me. I actually, again, I only knew Mark Ronson as a producer. I didn't know his actual solo albums. So I knew him as a producer going back to the Amy Winehouse album, Back to Black. He actually won 7 Grammy Awards for that album. From one album, he won 7 Grammy Awards, which is so insane.
Or Back to Black?
Back to Black.
Oh, yeah.
That's so unbelievable. And most people know Mark Ronson because of the song Uptown Funk with Bruno Mars. So that's one of the biggest songs of all time. I think that single sold like 20 million copies or something. It's one of the best selling singles of all time. And that to me is an undeniable hit. Like everyone, period, that hears that song is like, geez, that might be the best song I've ever heard.
Play it on the wedding and everybody's on the floor.
Yeah, everyone's all about it. Listening to the album, I thought one thing that might stand out for you is almost every song has something cool going on with the drums. Now, I don't know if it's all programmed drums or if any of them are recorded. I don't know what's going on there, but I know that every song had something very unique or memorable happening on drums. Do you think that's one of the reasons as a drummer that you love this album?
I definitely listen to them. Isolated and here, like listening to what's happening, but it's not like the first thing I'm listening to necessarily. But I do know what you're saying. They're not your regular kind of beats, and that comes from the way he tends to likes to sample things, and like it's a big sampling thing, but the way he chooses his clips, what he uses to, and then builds his tracks on. He's got like a master class on it's called master. I think it's just called master class. Yeah. So
he's got producing.
Yeah, him producing. It's really, really interesting. And on Apple TV, he's also got like a series where he goes kind of play by play with all the artists that he's not all the artists, but certain artists that he's working with. Also very, very cool watch. But yeah, no, just a very creative mind. And that's the thing, is like when you're working with a solo artist or a band, you're producing them, you're kind of, to an extent, at the mercy of what their vision is, which is not a bad thing. Obviously, you're still collaborating. But the interesting thing about this is his solo album is like, it's literally all his ideas, and kind of, he's completely steering the ship here, making his songs and just having his buddies coming in and contribute. So yeah, I think it's a great album. Definitely worth checking out for anyone that wants like a upbeat springtime kind of vibe.
So this next point is going to sound like I'm going somewhere else completely, but it ties in with this. Did you see the movie A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper? This is about 5 years old.
I didn't see the movie, but yeah.
So this was a big movie, up for Best Picture. She was up for Best, I don't know, actress or supporting actress. It was a big deal. So this movie, I didn't know this. There was a song in the movie called Shallow that was the centerpiece of the movie. And then it became a massive global hit outside of the movie in real life. So the song Shallow, if I played it for you, you would know it for sure. Yeah. I didn't know this, but Mark Ronson actually co-wrote that song. And that song won him the holy trifecta. That song, he won for that song. He won the Academy Award, a Golden Globe, and a Grammy for one song. So, man, we already mentioned that just for the Amy Winehouse album, he won 7 Grammys. Here he won another Grammy, Academy Award, Golden Globe. He might be one of the most acclaimed producers of all time. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, he's a definitely one of the tops for sure. On that Apple TV series, Lady Gaga is on there. Maybe that's a song they were working on now that you mention it. But yeah, she's on there working with him. So no, he's good.
It all ties together. Three final quotes from critics, and then we'll dive into your final album. So AllMusic praised the album as one of the best albums of Ronson's career. The AV Club says Ronson raised the bar pretty high by making the synth fantasy Bang 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 the lead single and placing it first on the album. But there's enough bing bang boom throughout to make the record collection feel complete. Entertainment Weekly described the album as impressively varied and added that Ronson's got the production chops to hold it all together. So 3 quotes there. And are you ready for the final album here?
Yes, I am.
One more album, and it's a great one. Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City from 2012. I'm a big Kendrick fan. He has 3 or 4 of his albums are considered greatest albums of all time. Why does his major label debut, Good Kid, Mad City, why does that top the list for you?
Once again, it's a nostalgia thing, because like, yeah, I've went into and listened to all the other ones. I've downloaded them. I mean, I should say I bought them, but we're not in that world anymore. Yeah, something about that one. It was just like, it was compared to all the other hip hop that started becoming really popular, like really, really just dumb shit that just, and I can't say that's like, it's almost like aging myself, like the mumble rap, this and that. I just don't get it. But I just don't get it. I try, if there's a really good beat behind it, that's the saving grace that, on you have a couple of drinks and one of these like songs come on. Okay, I get it. But it's like, I'm not drawn to that. Then in the mix of all that, you had this this album come out, and the first song I heard is Drank, and also sounded like kind of different. It's like, oh, is this one of these like mumble things? But I was like, it doesn't feel that way. And he's actually saying stuff, and there's a whole catchiness to it. The production's awesome. This is clearly something different. Like there's thought behind what he's saying. And you could hear what he's saying, which is like important from all the 90s hip hop that we grew up on. That was an important thing, to be able to actually have a cohesive verse and a point to it. So heard that, and then got the album, and then the whole album was just like one of those things that was started becoming on repeat, going from this is my favorite song to now this is my favorite song to just like reading about him and just trying to get a little more idea of who this person was. And like that was his major debut, but clearly he was grinding it out for years before that. And so as a major debut, I found it to be a very strong album. Like he's definitely, the team that was involved to curate that and make that the main release. It was done very, very smartly.
So the first song you heard was Drank. So it's Swimming Pools Drank. That's my favorite song on the album. That's such a great song. I was listening to it last night, actually. The two other most popular singles that people know are Poetic Justice with Drake and Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. There's actually 5 singles. So I didn't know, but The Recipe and Backseat Freestyle were also singles, I guess.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, maybe not as popular as the other 3. The album came out, met with widespread critical acclaim. Like it was right away, everyone knew this was one of the best albums of the year. It got nominated for 5 Grammy Awards, and it ended up losing in the best rap album category to Macklemore. And it's considered one of the biggest, most infamous snubs in Grammy history, to the point where Macklemore, and it was the Macklemore album, The Heist, it was a good album, but even Macklemore himself apologized to Kendrick Lamar, calling it a snub. He himself, the guy that won, said, dude, like we put out a good album, we had our success, but you had the rap album of the year. So I think that's kind of cool for someone to admit it, right? Rappers, it's always the best.
I'm not even a big Macklemore fan, but he is very humble for the man's success, and that's very respectable. So that was nice of him to say, for sure.
Yeah. So for an album that it had its singles, but it doesn't seem like a mainstream rap album. Like there's skits that are a little darker. The lyrical content's dark. There are hooks, but it's not, mainstream hooky. So despite that, it goes 3 times platinum. It's a big success. And the title, The Good Kid, Mad City. So Mad is spelled MAAD. And it's got the dots in there that this actually stands for something. And I never knew this, but MAD is an acronym. And this is Kendrick Lamar has said that MAD has 2 meanings. It means my angry adolescents divided. And it also means my angels on angel dust. So just a little behind the scenes stuff that there's cool. A deeper meaning to Good Kid, Mad City and what that means. What else do we got here? Oh, this was crazy. I recently saw a list of the albums that have been on the Billboard charts for the longest in history. So you always hear like Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is always on the charts. I remember Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits is just always on the charts. Metallica's Black Album always on the charts. And this was shocking. So just last year, Good Kid, Mad City had spent a total of 10 years, 520 weeks on the Billboard Top 200. It is the first hip hop album to ever spend 10 years on the Billboard charts. Can you imagine, like, as a band? So picture illScarlett. If you even make it on a chart, that's a big deal. If you make it top 10, that's a big deal on the chart. If you're on the chart for a month after your album's out, competing against albums that come out that week, that's a big deal. Can you imagine your album being on the main top 200 charts for 10 years?
I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine it. It's just, such a, I don't know if people have that as a goal. It's just like something that miraculously happens once in a blue, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that amount of longevity is shocking. 10
It's
years.
amazing.
Like you think about your own life, like how long 10 years is, and for an album
A
to just
friggin' decade, yeah.
trucking along, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a great album. I'm telling you. Uh, um, I saw him live in New York City, and just very very captivating. Like it was nice to he had a live band behind him. I always prefer to see hip hop when there's like a full band, like you know, reenacting the music or playing the music. Uh, and yeah, it was such an excellent show. He's just so like intense when he performs, and it shines through all his records. The newest one I haven't really got into, just not because I don't want to, just haven't had the time. But like uh, all the first, yeah, the last like after Good Kid,
To Pimp a
probably,
Butterfly.
yeah, that one got
There was
into.
Damn.
Damn got into, and
There was a thing of demos that still went to number one. I
yeah,
forget what
that's
that
right.
was
Yeah, but
called.
those three, like I definitely got in there pretty good. But yeah, Good Kid's awesome, and then the anything that Dre's associated with, that was another thing that kind of like, wow, he's if he's behind it, then you know it automatically gives it a certain kind of credit. That Recipe song's awesome. Um,
Yeah, if you can get the Dr. Dre stamp of approval, just
oh,
like Eminem, there's like the white guy, but because Dr. Dre was attached, people let him in the door.
that's right. No, and that was a part of that was um, part of the reason I kind of like even got drawn to it because I am a huge Dr. Dre fan for production, and then you know, 2001 is like definitely fits in my top 10 records as well. It was like actually when I put the give you my choice for a hip hop album, I was like, should I put Dre 2001 or something a little more more recent, but still affiliated. That was kind of what I went with. But yeah, fantastic album.
So I actually forgot that I saw Kendrick Lamar in concert as well. Until you just mentioned you saw him in New York, I forgot. So I went to Jay-Z created a festival in Philadelphia called the Made in America Festival.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, I was there for the headliners. I'm more into the rock stuff. So I was there for like Nine Inch Nails and Queens of the Stone Age, Imagine Dragons. Dude, it was like Beyonce. It was such a big lineup, and Kendrick wasn't huge yet, so he was actually one of the openers. So I have seen Kendrick, and yeah, he brings the energy and the intensity.
Amazing. Yeah.
So
And
I have
that same time I actually went to see Kendrick is where I got to see Anderson .Paak live, and that was a friggin' incredible show because he's just so captivating. Incredible drummer, but also performer. Do you know much about Anderson .Paak?
yeah. So his albums are always on the list of best albums of the year, but then he's gone on to have that success with Bruno Mars, right? The
Yeah. Uh,
smoking, what is it? Smoking out the window and or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. But if you get a chance, like his Malibu album is friggin' fire.
Yeah. What's the name of the duo again with Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak? So
Some
it's
Sonic.
Silk Sonic.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. So it's cool to have him get the shine of Bruno Mars, who's one of the biggest stars in the world, to get kind of that shine, to have Anderson .Paak's talent more known to everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, so just two more things. So Rolling Stone has this album at the 115th greatest album of all time on their list of 500 greatest albums of all time. So it's on the list, 100 and almost in the top 100 of all time. And this one was shocking to me. Rolling Stone has it as number one, the greatest concept album of all time. That's shocking because you have Pink Floyd, The Wall. You have
Yeah.
there's certain albums you know as being concept albums,
Right.
and so that one's shocking to me. But this is an all-time great album. It is a concept album. I think it deserves to be on the list of greatest concept albums of
Yeah.
all time. I'm not saying it shouldn't be number one. I'm just shocked that it is number one.
Yeah. No, that is surprising because there is a lot of incredible albums out there. Well, good for Kendrick. He is very acclaimed. Like anything he puts out, it's it's in a whole different category compared to any other rappers. So, good for him.
Yeah, he's already considered one of the greatest of all time. So he's definitely deserving. So one final piece of acclaim. So Double XL hailed Good Kid, Mad City as one of the most cohesive bodies of work in recent rap memory, and wrote that each song sounded both complexly arranged and sonically fitting, foregrounding Kendrick's vivid lyricism and amazing control of cadence. So I thought that it kind of broke down Kendrick a little bit.
Yeah, totally. He's got these like almost like Eminem has these like different like
flow structures and
he just acts out like different sides, and he's got the timbre he uses for certain stuff. When he gets angry, it's like a little different, and it's the way he stacks the vocals in certain places. It's just like almost like him talking to himself sometimes. It's a very, very, very creative approach to his lyricism. Said he is in a league of his own. He stands out. I'm a very big fan of everything he puts out. So
yeah, it's very unique. Whenever it's his inner dialogue, he pitches the voice down.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what you're talking about. So suddenly when it's his mind talking to him, like his conscience, suddenly it's pitched down, and it's like this other entity speaking.
That's right. Yeah.
It's so genius.
Yeah, it's like Eminem did a lot of that kind of stuff, with his what's his persona, the Slim Shady, like a little like the devil on his shoulder.
Yeah, and Guilty Conscience, right, with him and Dr. Dre on the shoulders. Yeah. And so cool. So as we wrap up, I know you have a lot of favorite albums, and it was very hard to pick the 5 that we dove into. Here is your chance at redemption. Do you have any honorable mention albums that on any other different day, it could be a different top 5 list?
The first Foo Fighters record was really also like a big one for me growing up. The first Vampire Weekend, also a lot of these things come from a nostalgia point of view, so it's like my wife and I started seeing each other, and that's the record that was playing. I gave to her, she fell in love with it. So it's like we it's one of those things when on a road trip it comes on and we're both like back in this place. The record's good for many other reasons, but yeah,
I've actually never gotten into Vampire Weekend. Is that the album I should start with? Is the self-titled?
I think so. Like I said, it's my favorite one. It's a very interesting, almost a little quirky kind of like approach to the music, as the drums are like something that are outside the box. You would never really. I feel like it's not like a normal way to approach it, so it makes it different. And then the lyrics are awesome. The melodies are really cool. So yeah, I would get into that for sure. What else? Deftones, huge Deftones fan. All 3 of the first records were like, amazing. Around the Fur sticks out. And then I even love the way
Adrenaline is the first.
Adrenaline's amazing. Yeah. Apparently
so heavy, right? Just raw energy.
The band doesn't like it, but for whatever reason, it, for me, it connected in my teenage angst years. White Pony's also incredible. What else? I don't know.
You're a big Dr. Dre fan. You've been mentioning him quite a bit.
Yeah, huge Dr. Dre fan. Yeah, his 2001 is obviously like just a staple. The singles were amazing, but even the deep cuts in there are really, really good. So that was. I have a big respect for producers, and like when they do they release their album and have all their friends come in. That's just like something that I've been always drawn to. So that's a huge one for me. And yeah, I'm sure there's a whole slew of other albums.
So the last one that we had talked about before was a Beck album.
Okay.
Is it Guero or something?
Guero, yeah. I love Guero. It's like a little further in. Like Odelay is amazing, obviously, but like Guero, same thing. The nostalgia. It's just really, really, it takes you on a journey. I don't think it's a concept album, but it's just one of those things. I love when an artist, um, it's like there's the sophomore curse where it's like you have your first one, you come out, and he came out with the first one with Loser on it. And obviously Loser just blew him up unexpectedly. And you know, the second album, it's just like, what is he going to flop or not? And I love that, like, you could be 2 or 3 or 4 albums down the road, and it's all of a sudden like that's the album that connects with me, and they're clearly they're here to stay, you know. And it's, I love that it's like his 4th or 5th album that to me is my favorite one versus like, you know, the first one, because I have a lot of those where the first one is the one I connect to, but then, you know, like a Stone Temple Pilots is the third one that's for me, that's the best. And so yeah, with Beck, whatever Guero is, that one is the one that connects for me. Yeah, I'm sure there's, like I said, there's tons of them. You probably have 100 albums that are on rotation, depending how you're feeling. But
yeah, it's funny. I force these musicians to choose their top 5. And then I personally know I have a top 16. There's 16 clear albums that I've thought about that are my all-time favorites. So I force you to do just 5. But then if someone asks me, I could tell you my top 3. But to take the rest of the top 16 and fill out the final 2 for the top 5, I don't actually know. So I apologize for forcing you, and I won't do it to myself. But two more questions, we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
What is the album you love the most that our listeners would be shocked to know that you love? So is there any guilty pleasure albums? And I always mention, you know, I actually like a lot of Taylor Swift albums. Justin Bieber Purpose is a great album. People probably wouldn't think that I like. I have a lot of guilty pleasures. Any that come to mind right away?
Madonna's, like 80s Madonna. I don't know if it's like a best of, like Immaculate album. If that's a
The
best
Immaculate
of.
Collection. Yeah. Best of.
That's a huge guilty pleasure, I guess. Yeah, because I
didn't expect that. I like that answer. She had some bangers, man, back in the day.
Amazing. Like, honestly, like the really cool production on the stuff, and the songs are just really good. And what else? It's a guilty pleasure.
I mean, even just Madonna. That was a good answer.
Yeah,
I liked it.
So there's a couple of Limp Bizkit songs that when they come on,
dude, Significant Other. That was my jam. That album.
It's good. It's just like it's one of those things. I listen to. Musically is awesome, very creative. It just, as soon as like, oh, Limp Bizkit, his voice is just like, it drives me crazy, and he's not like the personality. It's just like, you know, it made sense when I was younger. But that said, certain songs come on, and like, those are friggin'. It's the production. It's the energy that it does give off. It's undeniable. You know, like, there's a reason that they to this day sell out arenas. It's just you know, it's not because it's like revolutionary music, but there's an energy to it. So yeah, there's a little bit of guilty pleasure there.
Yeah, they Limp Bizkit has shockingly sold like 40 million albums, and crazy. you have to give Fred Durst credit for monetizing being the most hated band in the world. Like, they latched onto that, and that got them all this press. Like, he's a genius marketer. I have to give him that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So final question. We have a tradition on this podcast where we have the last guest leave a question for the next guest without knowing who it is. So I have a question here left from, this is from Dick Cooper of the Cooper Brothers, a popular 70s Southern rock band. So Dick Cooper's question is, what is the first album you ever bought with your own money?
With my own money?
Your hard-earned cash, you know, making 25 cents a week, making your bed and doing the dishes, or after your first job at 16. I don't know. Can you remember the first album you actually bought?
Yeah. So with my own money that I earned from because I had birthday money. I don't know if that constitutes as
that counts. Yeah, your own money. Your parents didn't just go and buy you something.
Yeah, well, in that case, it was when what's it called? When Nevermind came out, and there was those like main what's it called?
The singles or
like the biggest album. So you had Michael Jackson
bestsellers.
Yeah, Dangerous. It was because it was like a Mike Smart or whatever, Nax Milk, whatever, one of those kind of plays. But they had a setup of the best albums. So there would be the Nevermind album was on there, Dangerous was on there, Chili Peppers was on there, and
all 91, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then
Metallica
Queen,
Black Album, yeah.
Yeah, and Queen had the like the best of the blue and the red album. So I did buy the blue Queen classic album. I was like, yeah, that's it, because I actually liked Queen, because that's what my parent, my dad was really big into it. And I was like, that was my first one. But the first album that I bought with my own money, that was my own music, was Offspring's Smash.
Nice.
Yeah. So when I started finding my own kind of, my own musical sense. So that was the first one. And yeah, I really like that one.
So I had Smash as well. I was a big Offspring fan. And that album at one point was the best-selling independent album of all time. It went diamond, 10 times platinum independently as a punk band, like unheard of.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Actually the big song was almost kind of a Nirvana ripoff.
Come Out and Play.
No.
Keep Them Separated.
Yeah. No.
So Come Out and Play, Self-Esteem.
Because Come Out and Play, Keep Them Separated is the same song.
Yeah.
But Self-Esteem. Down. Oh
yeah, that actually does sound like
totally Nirvana, for a punk band, which they were. That's the one song that was like very Kurt Cobain-ish kind of riff.
As we wrap up, where can our listeners find you online, whether it's a website or a social media page, if they want to stay in touch and get updates on what you're up to?
Yeah, like on for band stuff. Actually, that's the craziest part. Our website.
It could be Instagram or
Instagram. illScarlett Band, illScarlett Band or whatever. Instagram / illScarlett Band, or on the Facebook. Just type in illScarlett. That's the best way, because our website got hijacked a couple of years ago.
Last question: is there any final words you'd like to say to your fans that have been with illScarlett from the very start?
Thank you for sticking with us for what it's been it's been 2 decades. So yeah, thank you for sticking with us for this long. And we finally are working on some music, so stay tuned for that. And I hope to see you guys at a show this summer.
There you go. So to the listeners, to the Swav fans, to the illScarlett fans, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Cheers.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. What I want to know is, who would you like me to sit down with next for a 2-hour deep dive interview? You can let me know by reaching out to me on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Joel Martin Mastery. Joel is Joel. And you can find me on Twitter and Snapchat at Joel Mastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.